Well, I think it's about time, like I promised, that I did some of these questions and answers that I said I was going to do. So brace yourself. Might not be as exciting as a normal video. Hello there, everybody. So this little video is one that I said I'd do a week or so ago, because obviously I posted quite a few videos and people have been good enough to watch them, and I thank you very much. And people have commented on them, which again is most welcome. It shows that you're interacting with them, which pleases me. So what I did was I took a selection of questions from the videos that I've done, and some of the questions have been asked by different people. So I've selected the ones that seem to have the most common themes, and then I'm hoping that I can answer them, and then by me answering them, that will help those of you again who are on the CX, just starting or thinking of starting, because obviously the more experienced members, they won't need this information. But we're here to help, and this is what we're going to do. So the first question, I did actually write these down for a change, so that I'm actually doing it properly. I was from De Niro. I don't know if that's his real name or his mum, just like The Godfather. I don't know. But his question was, do you need to be a limited company to go on the Courier Exchange? And the answer to that is definitely no, you don't. I'm a limited company. My company, Anvil Logistics Limited, but my name's Dave. I chose to have a limited company, but you can just go on in your own name, or you can think of a company name and just put trading as. You don't have to be a limited company. Now, when he asked that question, it was on the video I did about VAT. So in relation to VAT, again, you don't have to be a limited company to register for VAT. I'm registered for VAT, finally. Took ages. And I've gone for the full fat VAT, because that's what the accountants advised when he looked at how much fuel I get through, etc., and what I pay out. And but some people go for the flat rate VAT scheme. That suits them better, where they keep a portion of the VAT they collect. Each to your own, really. If you're not too sure, take some financial advice about it. But I hope that answers your question, and thank you for asking it. Now, Jason messaged to say that he's just passed his ADR test. Congratulations, Jason. Well done. Don't come up north nicking my work, but well done anyway. But he did ask. He lives in Bristol, and is Bristol a good area for work on the Courier Exchange? So my answer is I don't know really, mate. Because I live in the northwest, and I've actually never yet, in the few months I've been on the Courier Exchange, taken a job to Bristol. But of course, I watch the videos of the other YouTubers, and the general consensus of opinion is in the southwest, Bristol is about the best area. You venture further towards Exeter, and then the work pretty much dries up. So Bristol, big city, and yes, it's supposed to be a decent place to work. As regards ADR, I don't know. I honestly don't know. There is quite a bit of work comes out on the south coast for ADR. I've seen it, London, etc. But ADR work's not prolific. You just, you might get the 1 or 2 a week, which will help boost your money up. But still, congratulations, and if you're coming on the CX, I hope it works out for you. Alternative Perception, different name. I'm going to call you AP. Said he'd like to do this job. He'd like to become a courier. He'd like to come on the exchange, but he's not too sure of the pricing structure and how to price. Now, pricing, if you've seen some of my videos, it can be a touchy subject for me. However, it is a bit of a can of worms, and there's no definitive answer. Obviously, it depends on the vehicle you got. So a smaller van would not get as much per mile or per job as a larger van, for example. But if we take me, because that's the perspective I look at, and I drive a long wheelbase van, and I will try to price around between £1.20 and £1.30 per mile. However, you don't always get that. I put plenty of quotes in on those figures and quite frequently never hear anything from my quotes. So some people would say that's a bit ambitious. I personally feel that's the kind of rate you should be running at, because obviously the fuel's a lot more expensive than 12 months ago when people were running at 110 a mile. But generally speaking, I aim to get that, although I do bid quite frequently if, it's not very busy and I've got quite a bit of competition around me, around 110, but I never go below 110, ever, per mile. The only exception to that rule will be if I'm bidding on a backload. If I've perhaps, for example, taken a job to Scotland, so I've had the bulk of my money for the day on the run to Scotland, then I will, of course, in an attempt to get back and get some money, I will bid lower as a backload to get that job. Because it might just simply pay for the fuel for the day, if nothing else. But I'll still try and get the full rate if I can, so I'll always have a bash. But that's the only time I'll bid low. I do have a minimum myself, and I think everybody's got a minimum, and my minimum is £40. So the minimum price that I will actually turn the key in the van and go to a job for is £40, regardless of where it's going, even if it's going around the corner. And the minimum I work for on ADR is £75. So I hope it answers your question, but there's no easy way, because there are variations as well. Because if it's late, you might get more per mile, because not everybody wants to do a job that's going out late. And if it's going to a remote area, again, you'll be bidding more, because if you're not going to get a job back out of that area, you really need to compensate yourself for that as well. So I hope it gives you some idea, but again, it's not definitive. And it's one of those things that you kind of find out for yourself when you come on. Jack has asked, how many miles in an average week do I do? Well, it does vary. There's no average week, I suppose, but if I did work out the mileage when I got the van and the mileage now, and you're looking around 1,500 miles a week, although that's when I work quite hard. But I think it's safe to say 1,500 miles a week, about 70,000 miles a year, would be pretty accurate. And obviously, depending on the size of your van, will relate to how much fuel you use on that. Best time of my life has asked, how much more on average do you get for ADR work? Well, I shall tell you. I ask for £2 per mile for ADR work if it's a larger van. I don't always get it, because there are some people out there who quote lower than that. Quite frankly, why they would quote lower than that is beyond me, when you're considering that you're carrying dangerous goods, but they do. Now, it may be that they've quoted it as a backload, in which case that's fair enough. But if you're carrying dangerous goods and you've paid quite a lot of money out to take the training course, and you've taken a week out of your life to do it, and then you've paid all that money out to kit your van out with the appropriate stuff, why would you run it at a normal van rate? That would just be stupid. At the end of the day, the classed as ADR, hazardous goods, for a reason. They're dangerous and you deserve a higher rate. So I generally quote £2 per mile for a medium wheelbase to long wheelbase van, with a minimum of £75. If it's a small van job, I've learnt now that you ain't getting £2 a mile. I'm sorry, if I've tried it, you don't get it. I'll generally quote a little bit lower, maybe 170, 165, but no lower than that. At the end of the day, these are dangerous goods and you need to be compensated for carrying them. Simple as. Now, there isn't a massive amount of ADR work that comes on the Courier Exchange. I get a few, and sometimes I might get 2 or 3 a week, but what that does is the difference, it boosts up your earnings quite a bit. I've had extremely lucky days where I've had an ADR once there and back. Well, I mean, that's rare. It doesn't happen very often. Lion has said, have you ever looked at running into Europe? That would make a good video. It probably would, but to be honest with you, I don't know the first thing about what you do about shipping, ferries. You're gonna have 2 days away, and also I think you're paying out a lot of money up front. So you're going to bid for a job. It might equate to £1,000, £1,500 maybe, with ferry costs and the cost of the job, 2 days away. You're paying all that out up front, and then you're going to wait 60 days maybe for your money to come back. It's a lot of money to pay out on a job at a risk of a company going bump. So the chances are, Lion, I will never run into Europe. It's interesting. It interests me just for the crack, but I don't think I ever would. If somebody I know well does it and they give me a nice report about it, I might consider, but I don't think it's for me. CW Logistics is considering getting a curtain side van. Can he use that for ADR? Now, I'm going to answer this question, but to be honest, CW Logistics, I nearly didn't. I nearly deleted your question because you, in your comments, put that you thought that Neil from Neptune Courier's videos were better and funnier than mine. And quite frankly, they're not. They're not at all. But I just take my subject a bit more seriously. That's all. However, I'm going to answer. If you get a curtain side, yes, you can run ADR. The simple rule of thumb for ADR is you have to have a separate bulkhead separating you from the load. So like in my van here, I've got a bulkhead behind me, so I'm separated from the load. In a curtain side Luton, you've obviously got a separate cab anyway, so you are separated from your load. It's a safety thing. If you're carrying things like flammable goods, then it just affords you that little bit more time to get out safely. If there's a fire, for example, those 2 to 3 seconds might make all the difference. And that's the reason why you can only carry ADR if you've got a bulkhead between you and the load. So if you've got one of them open vans, I'm afraid you can't do it. Curtains, no good. It's got to be a solid bulkhead. I even think it's got to be steel as well, I think. I'd have to double check on that, but definitely got to have a bulkhead anyway, and that's a fact. So those are the few questions I've picked out. I hope that you gained something from the answers. I will say once again, and I don't like giving credit out to these other YouTube drivers because they're trying to catch up their numbers, but every one of them gives good information on their videos. So I'm going to name them and say that their videos are worth watching to pick up tips from. So, in no particular order of favourites, you've got the Saintsman, drives a small van, he works like a machine. And if you want to learn how to get the most money out of a small van, watch his videos. I highly recommend him. His name's Dave. He takes a mickey out of me at my quest for getting numbers a bit. But I can't deny the man's a machine and knows how to wring the most out of a small van. You've got Neil, Neptune Couriers. He lives up in Scotland. He's an ADR driver as well, like myself. He's gone from a small van to a medium-sized van now. Puts lots of useful stuff out. Not just about driving, about your admin, how to load items, everything. Really useful videos, worth watching. You've got Freddie Fletcher Limited, and that's James who runs that channel. He is not just a driver, he's a shipper as well. So if you want to see it from another perspective, from someone who posts jobs and gets drivers to do work for him, tune into his, because his are good as well. You've got John, who has Tall Man Small Van, although I think he's going to be called Tall Man Not So Small Van because he's just bought himself a Mercedes Vito now. But again, gives you an insight about one man running on the Courier Exchange and the things that go up and for you. You've got Andy P. He runs a medium wheelbase. He lives not too far from me. Again, he always does an interesting video once a month detailing how his month's been, the ups, the downs, detailing things about the repairs he's had to do, everything, because it's not just driving and delivering. You're covering things like how you getting your van repaired, how you're keeping it maintained, what you're up against. So again, he details everything for that month. Then you've got the big boy, you've got Pete the Courier. He is by far the most well-known vlogger, is that the word? Vlogger He now drives an HGV, but still posts regular videos about driving on the Courier Exchange as a van driver and everything else. So again, he's worth checking out. I'm sure there's some I've forgotten. There was Big Beardy, but he's kind of left us now. He's no longer posting videos about the Courier Exchange. He's gone into another area. I think he still does some courier work, but I think he concentrates on other stuff. There are others, but because in the back of my mind, it's escaped me. But those are the ones I know the most, so I'm going to forecast them. So if you like our videos, please give it a thumbs up at the bottom there. Just press the like, because when you press the like, something to do with the algorithms of YouTube, it gets the video out to more people. And if you press the subscribe button, don't worry, those of you from Yorkshire, you don't have to pay. It's free. All that does is simply tell you in your thing, or whatever it's called, that another video's out and you can watch it. It's nothing you have to pay for. So I hope that's been useful. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them in, and I will answer them. And if I get enough of them, I'll do another one of these videos. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. And hopefully I'll do a more interesting one for you very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and take care of yourselves.